What's the beef with Costco chickens?
Hey, welcome to the Diabetes Remission Roadmap podcast with the two renegade pharmacists, Brian Bisher and Cory Jenks. You are listening to this because you are a person with type 2 diabetes who is committed and driven to breaking free from this diagnosis and creating a real, meaningful change in your health and life. In these episodes, we're here to help you ditch the scripts with doses of unconventional wisdom on topics such as fitness, nutrition, medication, mindset, and more. So without any further delay, let's dive right in.
Welcome back to another solo edition of the Diabetes Remission Roadmap podcast. I am your co-host, but solo host for today, Cory Jenks, pharmacist, and I'm here to talk about Costco chicken and what they can teach us about learned helplessness and why progress is more important than perfection. So I want to start by sharing a story. There was a patient at a clinic of mine years ago who was overweight, had diabetes, and had an upcoming surgical procedure, and was doing his best to improve his blood sugar, to lose weight, so that when he went under the knife, his risk of complications was lower. It was easier for him to recover. The risk of infection was lower. And one of the things that he was doing, and one of the things that we talk about in our podcast and in our coaching program, is really trying to up your nutrition to energy ratio or protein to energy ratio. That means getting the most nutrition, which means in our opinion, protein, vitamins, minerals, and fiber for the least amount of energy intake, and that's carbs and fats. Okay. And so this is someone who has been eating a lot of carbs, and thus their blood sugar was pretty high. And they had been warned by their provider of the importance of improving sugar. They talked about and were given some pretty good information. And so they went back to their provider and they said, "Good news, I'm doing what you're asking. My sugars are lower. Instead of that big bowl of pasta and mac and cheese, I've been going to Costco and getting the rotisserie chicken and eating that instead." And you would think that the reaction from the provider would be one of excitement, of encouragement, of saying, "Way to go, you're on a better path for better health." But instead, they said, "Oh my gosh, do you know what they put in those chickens? Do you know how they're raised?" And this person who was probably in their 60s and did not spend their time obsessing over nutrition labels probably had no idea of what was in the Costco chickens. It's chicken, right? And the beef with the Costco chicken from this provider's perspective was it wasn't organic, ethically raised, and then I actually have the label for the Costco rotisserie chicken pulled up here. So there are a number of ingredients. So there's whole chicken, which is good. It's the first ingredient, right? We want the first thing to be the most thing. Water and seasonings. So they have salt, sodium phosphate, modified food starch, potato dextrin, carrageenan, sugar, dextrose, spice extractives. So there are some things in there that on their own, we probably don't want to eat a lot of, right? If we're trying to lower sugar, we don't want to have a lot of sugar or dextrose or potato dextrin. And I'm pretty sure there's some controversy about carrageenan as well, right? And the truth is that you can look up any specific ingredient and you can find research in labs and animals that might paint it in a not so good light. And in a perfect world, our patient that we're talking about would have been eating a ethically raised, perfectly loved organic chicken that lived on a farm and was cuddled every day. And there's a great Portlandia sketch if you want to look up how some people care about how their chickens are raised. Now, I'm not going to be a big proponent of factory farming, but this gentleman, this patient needed a tool to improve their own health to get where they wanted to go, and utilizing Costco chicken was one of them, and they were totally shot down. So this raises two issues in our opinion. One is learned helplessness. Now, learned helplessness is when you feel like there's nothing you do, anything you do does not matter. So this person had been making effort to change their diet, had actually seen results, and were told that they were doing a wrong thing by their provider. So in that case, when you develop learned helplessness, which a lot of us patients can learn in the healthcare system, is it feels like you're doing everything your provider is telling you to do, but your blood sugars go higher, you need more medicines. So you feel like, screw it, why do I even need to try? So in this instance, this patient was developing learned helplessness because it's like, what the heck do I need to do to please my doctor and also take care of my own health? So if you find yourself in one of these situations with a provider, this is This is where you need to advocate for yourself or find someone who will help you advocate. And one of the things that we want to zoom out and look at is the idea of progress over perfection. So in a perfect world, we would all eat ethically raised, perfectly organic, homegrown, garden raised, all the descriptors of a perfect world that maybe you would say like a Whole Foods or a farmer's market. And that would be great. And there's a lot of issues with our food system. This is not a food system podcast. Okay. We're here to help you get from point A to point B, which is B for better. And if you're trying to be perfect, if you're trying to make every meal the most perfectly seasoned, tasty, ethically raised meal, you will fail because it is very hard to do, nearly impossible in our modern food system unless you have someone shopping and cooking for you. And I don't know about you all, but I do most of the cooking in my house, and I have 3 little kids, and I do most of the shopping. And there is just not a lot of time to do fancy, perfect meals. And we all have budgets too. And so what we want to focus on instead of this perfect ideal, which we will all fall short on, and then we will feel like, well, screw it, we can't do well, and so you will give up and thus develop this learned helplessness, is to focus on progress. Are you moving towards better? Now, in this patient's case, going from a big old bowl of pasta to a high protein, highly satiating food like a rotisserie chicken, although not perfect in the world of our food system, and even with some of the ingredients you might question it, is still a better choice. They are going to have better blood sugars. They are going to have a better chance at losing weight. They're going to have a better chance at feeling full and sustaining it. And it sounded like this person liked it. Okay, that's a big part of it. If, for example, if you told me I had to eat kale every day to be healthy, I would not be healthy because I think kale tastes like crap. But some people love it, right? So it's all about progress. And one of the things that I work on with my patients, with our clients, is instead of trying to figure out a perfect day of eating, can you pick one meal a day where maybe you're eating a lot of energy versus nutrition? This could be a big bowl of cereal to start the day versus some eggs or yogurt or cottage cheese. If you only fix one thing or only work on one thing and do that for a week, even though the dinners and snacks and lunches may not be perfect, you are making progress. If you go out and you do a 5-minute walk after a meal versus nothing, you are better than before. And that is all we are working towards, is that ultimate goal for us is diabetes remission. And remission, well, like literally it can kind of happen overnight with if you are very focused and intense with your lifestyle. We have seen it happen within a matter of days where blood sugar is normalized on no meds. Okay. Don't worry about being that person. All right. If you have certain habits that are ingrained for a long time, it's going to take a long time to undo them. And that starts with making small progress that's tangible. It makes you feel good and give you those small wins that you start stacking up every day. Okay. And in this patient's case, he had a huge win improving his one meal of his dinners, removing a lot of the carbs that were causing the blood sugar spikes, replacing it with some protein and some fat to make him feel full, not seeing the sugar spikes, losing some weight. And he was totally stamped down by this provider who was living in a world of making things perfect. And if you aim for perfect, you will feel like you are a failure because it is impossible to be perfect. And that is not a happy place to be. So what can you do? Well, I think I mentioned it several times already, is start making small steps. Now, within our approach, how we help our patients, our clients, we help them identify those spaces to make those small little wins, whether it's with their diet, whether it is with their exercise routine. And when you have a plan, you have a vision, and you have these small steps that you start taking every single day, they start adding up. And you look back in 3 months and realize, oh my gosh, I've lost weight. My sugars are normal. I don't need as much insulin, or I don't need insulin, or I don't need these medicines. So have an advocate for you to avoid that trap of learned helplessness. And if you've been beaten around by the healthcare system, it sucks. And it's not designed to keep you feeling like you are in your own agency of what you're doing. But you can. You can get there. So find an advocate. And then focus on making progress. Every little win you should celebrate. You should. And to someone who's living their air quote perfect life, who's not there to help you celebrate, cut them out of your life. Don't even listen to them because they're idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. All right. We're here to help you, whether it's with our podcast you're listening to today, whether it's with any content we put out on social media, whether you take that relationship to the level and you work with us one-on-one, or you're part of our clinics and our day-to-day lives. We're here to be your advocates and help you. So go forth, make progress, screw perfection, and try not to have too much beef with the Costco chicken. All right. We'll catch you next time on the Diabetes Remission Roadmap podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for listening. Now go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. You can join us on the journey and roadmap to remission.